Monday, March 11th, 2019, Maneco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. This morning I want to talk about a very interesting comment made by a Chinese central banker. He said the West has not gotten the hold of money and banking. According to him, the West has done a great job of industrializing and becoming wealthy, but money and banking is the Achilles heel of the West. And I will reference this book, The End of Alchemy, by Mervyn King, who was governor of the Bank of England from 2003 to 2013. So it's 7:32 a.m. London time. We're 4 hours ahead at the moment. The US and Canada have moved their clocks forward. So I think we only move our clocks forward towards the end of the month. So right now, instead of 5 hours, London is 4 hours ahead of the US. Before I look into that, and also an article about China and its gold buying spree, which kind of matches up with this comment. I will also look at the CFTC latest COT report, which is showing some interesting signs. I know gold did very well on Friday, gold and silver especially. And technically it looks like we could go straight back up despite the fall we had in the last week of February and the first week of March. So first, let's look at what the markets are doing this morning. We've got spot gold, $12.9660, down just over $1.50. The high's been $12.9938. I think the high on Friday was just above 1,300, around 1,301. The low overnight has been $12.9560. Silver's down a couple of cents, $15.30. 1538 has been the high, and the low has been 1526. So yeah, a little weaker. The Dow is down 42 points, 25,407, down 0.17%. S&P is up 8, which is strange, but that's the way it is at the moment. It's up 1/3%, 2751. NASDAQ 100 is up 1/3 as well, or 25 points. So there must be some component of the Dow that's not doing well. One company, the Dow is only 30 stocks, but I haven't really looked into it. The pound is just below 130, or sterling, 129.93, or 0.17%. Euro is up 8 pips, 112.40, so pretty steady. Dollar yen is virtually unchanged, 111.21, and also the dollar yuan is unchanged, so fairly quiet this morning. It's unchanged at 673. Crude oil, we've got WTI still fairly firm, 56.62. That's up 0.5%. And Brent is $66 exactly, up 1/3%. US 10-year yield is up 1.5 basis points at 264. So bond price is a little lower this morning. So before I go on to the Mervyn King book and the Chinese officials comment, I'll look at an interesting article on Zero Hedge. It says China's gold buying spree extends. It says China's gold buying spree extends to 3rd month. So I'll read from the article here. After China's official gold reserves rose for the first time in around 2 years, since October 2016 in December, Beijing appears to have joined the global gold rush, increasing its gold reserves for the 3rd month in a row in February to 60.26 million ounces. Yeah, last year I think was, in terms of central bank gold buying, was the most central banks bought since 1968, I think. Russia, of course, was the major, biggest buyer of that, I think. And it goes on to say here, as we previously noted, China has long been silent on its holdings of gold, as many countries are turning away from the greenback. The value of the country's holdings of the precious metals reached 79.5 billion, increasing by more than 3 billion compared to the end of last year. And it goes to say, Goldman Sachs has flagged central bank buying as a plank supporting its bullish outlook for gold, which it expects to rally to 1,400 an ounce over 6 months. Do I think that 1,400 in 6 months is conservative? Well, you know, the bullion banks, I remember when I worked in the city, when I used my Bloomberg terminal, which I don't use anymore because it's too expensive to keep. But I remember looking at their forecasts. They used to forecast pretty much the same levels. And they were never like very bullish on gold. They didn't come out and say, oh, we think gold can go to 1,700 by the end of the year. They're very conservative. And you looked at UBS, Goldman Sachs, Barclays, all the bullion banks, and their forecasts were very similar. So I wouldn't read too much into that Goldman Sachs forecast. I mean, we could be lower, of course, but we could be a lot higher. Article goes on to say China is also trying to diversify its reserves away from the greenback, according to Jeffrey Halley, senior market analyst at currency broker Oanda. The analyst told the South China Morning Post that the state of affairs in global politics, including a trade war with the U.S., are driving China's interest to buy gold as a safe haven hedge. Well, so I'll stop at that. I mean, just to show you that China is increasing its gold buying, but I personally don't think it's anything. Well, it's maybe a little bit as a hedge and diversifying away from the fiat money dollar or the Federal Reserve note. I think it's got a lot more to do with China becoming a major economy. You know, probably it's going to be the biggest economy very soon, and it's going to be a major economic and monetary powerhouse. And I started reading this book a year and a half or so ago. I haven't finished it because that's one of the problems that I have. I buy books, I start reading one, and then I get another one. But I'm starting to read this again, and I was reading the introduction to the book. The book, of course, is by Mervyn King, former governor of the Bank of England from 2003 to 2013. So he was at the helm of the bank during the financial crisis. It's called The End of Alchemy: Money, Banking, and the Future of the Global Economy. So here you go. So here on page 2 of the introduction, he says, and I quote, "In the spring of 2011, so he was still governor then, I was in Beijing to meet a senior Chinese central banker over dinner in the Diao Yutai State Guest House, where we had earlier played tennis." That's what they do, the central bankers, when they meet. "We talked about the lessons from history for the challenges we faced, most important of which was how to resuscitate the world economy after the collapse of the Western banking system in 2008. Bearing in mind the apocryphal answer of Premier Chu Enlai to the question of what the significance one should attach to the French Revolution, it was too soon to tell." Apparently that was the answer. "I asked my Chinese colleague what importance he now attached to the Industrial Revolution in Britain in the second half of the 18th century. He thought hard. Then he replied, 'We in China have learned a great deal from the West about how competition and a market economy support industrialization and create higher living standards. We want to emulate that.' Then came the sting in the tail," as he continued. And I quote the guy, "But I don't think you've quite got the hang of money and banking yet." His remark was the inspiration for this book. So there you go. I think, yeah, I don't think the Chinese are going to stand idle. And they're going to become more and more important to the architecture of the world monetary system, or their own world monetary system. It will become important because it's going to be the major economy in the 21st century. There's no escaping that. I'm not cheerleading for China or bashing the United States. It's just a fact. China is industrializing very quickly. It was dirt poor 40 years ago, and now it's still relatively poor, but it's completely transformed, and it's got 1.4 billion people. So we can't escape the fact that I think that's what the gold buying is all about. And China, not only officially, but Chinese population has been encouraged to buy gold as well. So I did a video like a month or two ago about how the gold retail industry is so big and important in China. To end this video, I want to look at the CFTC and the COT report of the futures on COMEX, which is published once a week. It comes out Friday, late on Friday, I think, and it's as per the last Tuesday. So this is what happened by Tuesday last week. It's very interesting because the commercials, which are the bullion banks, they've changed their positions quite dramatically as of last Tuesday in silver and gold, and it could be pointing to continued move higher in gold and silver. This is just looking at the tea leaves. It doesn't necessarily mean it will happen. As you can see here, though, in the silver futures, the commercial short position was decreased by 27,800, which is quite significant for 1 week. And the longs, they also decreased the longs, but only by 1,800. So net, it was about 26,000 net long increase. The short, they still have more shorts than long. The commercials you can see there, 122,000 versus 70,000. And then in gold, the same story. Gold, the short commercial interest dropped by 36,000, and the long actually increased by almost 10,000. So almost 46,000 net long increase from the commercials. So that's quite significant. And as you can see there, there's still more short than there are long, of course, around 270 versus 155. But that change there of 46,000 almost is like quite significant. So yes, it will be interesting to keep an eye on what China keeps doing in terms of its gold holdings. Keep an eye on the precious metals market, of course, and I'll try to see if I read this book and maybe do a review about it for you guys. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button. If you enjoy my videos but you're not subscribed yet, think about subscribing. Share it far and wide as well, the video. You can also follow me on Twitter, Steemit, and DTube. I wish you all a great day. Take care. Bye.